Alright, so I believe it was a day or two or so ago that I posted entry number one in a series of videos I planned to put out on Mother Blankin YouTube. I gotta really curb my swearing. It's gonna be real hard because I have a really trash mouth most of the time. So, if I say silly things or I stop or in the middle of saying something, it's because I'm trying to censor myself from saying, F words and um, fecal matter words and stuff like that. Um, and the reason why I started up a few days ago and only have one video out is because I think I was saying some things about feeling like the end is near for me. Um, and for some reason, I feel as though the end is approaching faster and faster. Um, Maybe even that the end might hit me as I'm trying to record this video. I only have 15 minutes per video. If I can make it, I might go through a couple 15-minute videos, 15-minute postings. Um, because I feel like there's a couple of really, really huge things that I need to have communicated um, before I go, before I leave this world, if it's going to be, you know, if it's going to be today, tomorrow, whatever. So I guess I'm just going to come right out and say this much. One of the biggest things out there, one of the biggest warnings that I want to give to everyone out there is do not trust drugs. Now, what do I mean by that? See, a lot of these things that I wanted to talk about, I have written down in many different places. This subject I do not have written down anywhere. So this is going to be off the cuff, from my head. Um, Whatever, which is why there's probably going to be some real hard censoring in my head going on with the swearing, because it's hard to talk. It's hard for me, at least, to talk off the cuff and not swear. But what do I mean by don't trust the drugs? Well, especially nowadays. Even the FDA approved drugs out there are terrible. You see, we had things like, let's say, in the beginning, we had morphine and heroin, and then it changed into like Percocet and Lortab and you know hydrocodone and oxycodone, and those things are bad in themselves. Yes, they're bad drugs for the most part. Um, but used in the right way, they're not bad drugs. What are bad drugs are things like fentanyl, which I may add is something that was developed well after heroin, well after morphine, well after Percocet, hydroxycodone, any of those things. Fentanyl, um, whatchamacallit, Suboxone is fresh on my mind. Fentanyl, buprenorphine, which is what is the main component of Suboxone, and the other opiate replacement drug. I can't believe I can't get the daggone thing out of my mouth. It's in my head. It just won't come out of my mouth. They say it gets in your bones. It's like the original opiate replacement drug. What is that stuff called? Oh, yeah. Anyways, it'll come to me. And for those of you that have had problems of this nature know exactly what I'm talking about. These drugs that they're coming out with now, they're even more addicting. They mess with your head. They mess with your body in way worse ways than something like, an oxy or hydrocodone at any dose could mess with your head and mess with your body. Methadone, son of a bee. I can't believe. See, sometimes I feel like there are things out there that, there's something out there that messes with our minds nowadays, like transmissions and things that ride on the that ride through the airwaves, like wireless internet connections and radio waves. Well, because basically most and all transmissions that we receive, that our phones receive, that our televisions receive, that any computerized device receives, the radio waves. They always have been, they always probably will be radio waves. They're just different frequencies, different power, different concentration, whatever. I'm not the most technical and learned when it comes to a lot of the physics behind radio waves and the transmissions and all that stuff. But just like there are, like I feel like there's different radio frequencies or whatever. The things that have been developed and that are being developed are pretty intense, pretty crazy, way beyond not only our comprehension but our imagination, way beyond. I used to live out in Salt Lake City, Utah. Used to live near a place called Hill Air Force Base, which is basically in the middle of nowhere, Utah desert. About 200 square miles of a fence running around in the desert that is just blocked off with the signs posted that say, trespassers will be shot. You will be killed if you cross this fence or whatever. Those types of signs. U.S. military. Unauthorized personnel prohibited, that type of thing. They're basically signs saying you're going to be killed if you step across the line. But I had a friend out there who said something that I'll never forget it, and now I say it a lot of times, just in general. But he was saying it about Hill Air Force Base in particular. That was his focus when he said this. Basically, what he said is, he was saying, you have no idea what's going on out there. If you can think of it or imagine it, then it's already been done, or it's being done right now as you know, as we're talking. Meaning basically that any movie that you've ever seen, any like science fiction movie, a lot of the where they're messing around with DNA, where they're messing around with viruses, where they're, you know, whatever you can think of. They're doing that in real life in bases like Hill Air Force Base and places that we have no idea even exist. You know, the United States is huge, and most of us are most of the population is concentrated in small blocks, let's say. Most of the population is concentrated in small cities. Well, big cities, but there's small pieces of land in a vast, vast amount of land that stretches across this great country. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of square miles of space. I kind of wish that maybe when we get into the next transmission, the next 15-minute block, I'll have talked myself out of this thought of death in my head. I'll be a little more calmed down, and I'll see if I can get another computerized device out that I can like look things up on. I hate going on Google because the great God Google basically when people start having a conversation or a debate, you know, just, you know, personal, you know, day-to-day thing, you know, you're talking about something and you're like, yeah, this whatever, fact or factoid, new words and shit, and stuff. Factoid is a new word. You know, you're just like talking about something. People are always like, well, that's not true. And then they whip out their phone and they go right to Google, you know? And, you know, Google's a double-edged sword because Google has a lot of information on it. And information is just that. It's information. It can be true, it can be false, it can be somewhere in between, it can be opinion. But basically, it's just information. There's no guarantee that information is truth. And that's the age that we're living in. We're living in the age of information. We're living in the information age, where there is not a lot of truth out there, but there is a lot of information out there. And I hate to get so biblical, especially getting so close to the 15-minute mark, but there is a mention about there being more information than ever before on the earth in the end times. And that's where we're at. We're at the end times. Because the catchphrase, there really is never enough time. Until next time.